Hello, mixtresses and mixters. This is Mixtress Ray, and you're watching Mixtress Video. I just opened this Tarot of the Divine. Just got home from work, just opened it, and I started flipping through it, and I realized I don't want to wait. I want to do the unfair comparisons of Tarot of the Divine and Star Spinner right away because it's something that I knew I was going to want to do. And since other people already have their unboxings of Tarot of the Divine out there, and The Truth and Story has a long video up. I have not watched it yet, but now that I have the deck, I can, like, when I have the time to sit down with her, I know she's going to go through the book, and I'm sure anyway, there are already plenty of unboxings to choose from for Tarot of the Divine. So I just decided, before I even got done flipping, I only flipped through like 3 cards. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put my Star Spinner in order and do this right now. So here we go. So first of all, just comparing cardstocks. They're about the exact same thickness. Like the 2 stacks are pretty much the same size. And that does account for this deck having 4 versions of the Lover's card. So I would say that Tarot of the Divine is slightly thicker. Cardstock is, okay, they're the same size pretty much. Cardstock is a linen finish on Tarot of the Divine. And it's just a semi, it's like not really matte, not really glossy kind of finish on Star Spinner. So I knew I wanted to compare these 2 decks because they both have like a fairy tale theme and because they both have similar style of like border scrolly situation, you know what I'm saying? So let's get into this. I'm also going to be eating pretzels because I just got home from work and I'm hungry. It's going to be a hangout session. Being extra informal today. So this is The Little Mermaid. I'm not going to go through and I don't have the guidebook here with me. I'm not going to go through and describe what all the different myths are. Because for one thing, I can already tell you as far as comparing the guidebooks, even if you don't order there's an extra book that has all the different stories. But even if you don't get that, with Tarot of the Divine, the little guidebook does list all of the myths depicted in the cards within the guidebook. This one does not. Star Spinner does not, which is a disappointment to me. Even if you're not going to explain, I mean, we can all Google that, but I think you should at least list what myth you're referring to if you're going to do a fairy tale type deck. That's just me. This is Cinderella. I guess I am going to point it out, if I know what it is off the top of my head. But like I said, I just got this. Totally different art styles, obviously. This one's a little bit more like Art Nouveau style, I feel. Whereas this one feels like kind of like storybook style, if that makes sense. I know there's probably much more technical artsy words to use here, but like the 3 little mice down there. Lady of Guadalupe. I love this Empress so much. Now that I'm looking at these side by side, it didn't ever really bother me before, but the scroll work in the corners of the border design in Star Spinner seems a little intrusive now that I'm looking at these 2 decks side by side. This one feels a little bit simpler and more direct. I don't know if that's the right word. Both of these decks are very inclusive. Like this one's literally has mythologies from around the world depicted in the cards. And this deck has well, it doesn't have a lot of people of color, but it has a pretty decent amount. And this is White Buffalo Woman, I believe. Which I think is very interesting as a Hierophant card. It's very beautiful. Is this like focused? Okay, that's a little better. Okay, so I wasn't sure exactly how to do this since this particular deck. I guess just I'll flip through all the Lovers cards and I'll just keep this one stationary so you can compare each of the Lovers cards. Since Star Spinner has 4 versions of the Lovers card. So this one is Beauty and the Beast. Which, this looks kind of like a strength card to me, you know? Since we're used to seeing, like, a beautiful woman with, like, a lion. And this beast has some lion qualities to it. So that's something I'm going to have to get used to. Plus, the Beauty and the Beast has always been a story that really disturbs me. So that's going to be something I'm going to have to work through to use this deck. Love the cute little cats in this one. This deck already feels like, I've talked before, if you've seen my other videos where I flip through Star Spinner Tarot, this deck feels a little inconsistent to me. Just internal consistency within the symbolism and art style of the deck. It feels a little inconsistent to me. Whereas this deck is not going, I don't think it's going to feel inconsistent to me at all. I guess what I mean by that, like looking at these two cards side by side, for example, it's not like this one's not good, but the line work is much more sparse and much simpler in this design versus this one. Like this one is, there's all these fine lines in her hair, and this one, like, you can tell it took the artist a lot longer to create this image than it did to create this one. And so that just, for some reason, that is just something that stands out to me. I don't know. I like this as like a lion alligator. I'm interested to find out the mythology surrounding this card. I really like that, like, instead of a lantern or an inner light, this hermit has kind of like a Patronus almost, right? I'm not even a Harry Potter person, but I like that. Nancy, I think. That might not be how you say that. I love linen cardstock. This is only like my second tarot deck that has linen cardstock. Oh, I love it so much. This is Sleeping Beauty, I think, is the Hanged Man. Oh, this is a scary death card. I like this one. The whole like stars. It's like Nyx vibes, you know? I know who this is, but like, I cannot. Avalatkishvara? Ugh, that is terrible. I'm butchering that, but I love this devil card. These cards are more beautiful in person than they look on camera, and they still look beautiful on camera, but Rapunzel. I like that this still has the 8-pointed star. This has a little Tom Nook. What are they called? Tanuki? Tanuki raccoons? Oh god, that might not be right. This looks like Horus, but I thought it was supposed to be Ra. But that face looks more Horus-y to me. But again, I don't have the guidebook in front of me. I'm assuming this is Hanuman? No, because this is more Chinese artwork. Sorry, I should stop saying what I think this is. I love all this fire. This is a Roman god of some sort. Yes, very technical here on Mixtress video. Roman god of some sort. Gorgeous. I really like this. The house is like a rooster. What's up with that? I did actually buy the accompanying book that you can buy separately with this deck, which is very rare for me. Like, normally I wouldn't do something like that unless I had already had the deck a while and knew that I was really, really in love with it. But I actually did it. Like, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to want to know more about the mythology. And of course I could just Google it, but it will be nice to have it all there in the book. So the book, Beneath the Moon, that you could buy, it basically just has, it's very simple and straightforward. It basically just has a full page of each of the cards, and then of the artwork from the cards, and then on the other side it describes the myth that that particular card is depicting. They're not in order of the tarot, and they're not really in alphabetical order either, but the book does have an index, so it'll be easy to find. You know, you can just look. I mean, I guess you'd have to look at, you'd look at the card, and then you'd look in the guidebook that came with the deck to see what the myth was, and then you could consult the index of the book if you have the book. Pele. Pele is Queen of Wands. Interesting that both of these decks, I believe, I could be wrong, that all of the kings in this deck are some kind of animal, just like they are in this deck. I'm going to just check that out real quick. Yes. 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 Okay. Interesting. So both of these decks have that, whereas the other court cards may depict people, but the kings are an animal. The Chalice suit and Star Spinner is my favorite suit of this deck. This is Epic of Gilgamesh, which is like one of the very first stories. I remember that from world literature. And it was for sure like the Christ narrative. And it's like the first story ever written down. And it was pre-Christianity. Love this. These headpieces look to me like Thai headpieces. I might be wrong. Oh, wait, what did I do? Where's my 4? There we go. Got it in the wrong spot. The crow up here. I really like this. All the little gold fishies being the daydreams of the Little Mermaid. I wonder what this is about, because these people look kind of, I mean, maybe they're just supposed to be like mermaids, but they look like kind of deadly in pallor. And they, to me, look like they're probably the family of this person. Interesting. Yamoha or Yamoja. That's the Queen of Cups. Very beautiful. A dragon in both of these King of Cups. Very interesting. I wonder if Yoshitani, who did the Tarot of the Divine, if she was somewhat influenced by Trungle's artwork for this deck. Because even though I didn't find out about this deck until like spring of this year, I think it was in production for a really long time. So it's possible that she was very inspired by it. And, you know, I don't know. Look at that. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I love that. Okay, I'm gonna get out the guidebook for this one. Just because Two of Swords is my jam. So, Two of Swords. So what you would do if you have both just so you can see kind of the process. If you have both the guidebook that comes with the deck and the Beneath the Moon book that tells a little bit more about the myths, but doesn't directly refer to the tarot. So you would look it up in here. What am I doing here? I got the focus all screwed up. This is Sita, Hindu epic Ramayana. Okay, so, oops, what's happening? There we go. So then I will look in the guidebook, or in the full-size myth book for Sita. She's on page 111. Sita of the Ramayana. Okay. And I might just read this whole thing. Forgive my pronunciations. Dasharatha was the king of all of Ayodhya, and though he had 3 wives, he had not a single child. He performed a fire sacrifice and was finally blessed with Rama, Lakshmana, and Bharata, all of whom were endowed with traits of the supreme Trinity entity Vishnu. Vishnu had decided to be born as a mortal, for only a mortal could defeat the demon king Ravana. So when the child Rama was 16, the great sage Vishwamitra taught him and his brother Lakshmana how to defeat demons, giving them supernatural weapons. In nearby Mithila, King Janaka was plowing the fields one day when he found a baby girl in a deep furrow. He took her in and named her Sita, and she grew to be unmatched in beauty and grace. Janaka decided that the only person deserving of Sita was a suitor strong enough to use the heavy bow given to his family by the god Shiva. Rama heard of this bow, but was so strong that he broke it when he tried to use it. And so Rama and Sita married. Through the jealousy and treachery of his stepmother, who wanted Bharata to succeed, Rama was exiled from Ayodhya. He was followed by his loyal wife Sita and his best friend and brother Lakshmana. The demon king Ravana, hearing how Rama had defeated a number of demons, kidnapped Sita as revenge. He brought her back to his home, where she repeatedly refused to marry him, staying loyal to Rama. After many attempts, Rama was finally able to defeat Ravana and free Sita. But vile rumors about Sita and her time with Ravana arose, and Rama asked her to prove her purity by undergoing the test of fire called Agni Pariksha. Caught between 2 difficult choices, Sita stepped into the fire. There the god Agni protected her, proving her innocence, and she and Rama returned to Ayodhya. I'm just going to go ahead and say, I don't want to be at all disrespectful to the myths of someone else's culture, but that story does not give me the vibes that this image does, and does not give me the vibes that the 2 of Swords. This is a great image for 2 of Swords, but if I had made up my own story for what this means to me, I would have come up with something that felt more empowering to this character than that story does. That story it doesn't paint her as a warrior. It doesn't paint her as having a lot of agency in her own story. So I might forget I ever read that, just personally. But that is a gorgeous image. Oh my God. I like that this is there's still sadness in this 3 of Swords, but it's not. I almost don't have any decks that don't just show this type of imagery. So it is nice to see something that's not just 3 swords inside of a heart, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy that imagery, but when it's almost like no matter how many different variations a deck has with the artwork of these different cards, it's almost always still 3 swords and a heart for 3 of Swords, right? I like this guy. He's cool. This is Isis and Osiris, maybe? That's probably the god. That's probably Ra, and that's Isis. You don't know. I don't know. Now that I have the guidebook right here in front of me, I'm tempted to like look at it, but I didn't do it for the rest of the video, so should I be consistent or no? I don't know. I don't want this to be a very long video, since this is more about just looking at these two decks side by side. Oh, I love this. A lot of these I'm very intrigued by the stories, but luckily I have like a goldfish brain. So like I said with that one, the Two of Swords myth that I just looked up for Sita, I will remember that her name is Sita, but I will forget the rest. But with the ones that like when I look up the myth and I really vibe with the myth and I like it, I will remember it. That makes sense. This is like creepy, but interesting. I'm curious about this one. Of course, I'm curious about all of them. That's why I got the book. So this is going to be a fun one that like, this is a deck that I think could be immediately accessible. Like, I don't think if you already know the tarot, I don't think you're going to have a huge problem with. I think this is Sedna, the goddess Sedna, her story. I don't think you're going to have a huge problem with like using it right away, but this is a deck that is going to invite deeper study because you have all these myths that you can learn, myths and fairy tales that you can learn to kind of go with it. Oh, she's got a little bird on her hand. Oh, wow. This art is really, really beautiful. Like it probably was created on like a computer or something. A computer. I sound like an old lady. This was probably created on a computer. But it still has a lot of detail and depth. It has, you know, soul to it. You know what I'm saying? This is my favorite card in this deck. I'm not totally sure that like I will ultimately want to have both of these decks since they have such a similar vibe to me. And I'm thinking right now, just first impressions, that I'm leaning towards liking this one better. But I mean, it's way too soon for me to make any decisions like that. And it's only because I get overstimulated. It's one of the reasons why I've decided to try to keep my collection of decks relatively small. I'm just now to the point where I have a little bit over 20 decks. I still like this deck a lot, but I do not reach for it very often. This one, I fear a little bit that, you know, having a whole spread of cards with this particular deck would be slightly overstimulating because each one it's inviting you into a total world and mythology. It's inviting, every single card is inviting you into a different story. So I fear that like doing a whole spread with these cards would be difficult. Maybe not. But that's just one of my, this is very first impressions. Like I said, I haven't even flipped through this deck yet. I hope I'm not like doing weird things with the focus. Keep having to like refocus it. Look at that little guy. So cute. I like this. This is like a woman that cares for bugs or something. And maybe she's rehabilitated this one and she's releasing it to hang out with its other buggy friends. This feels like a much more, I don't know, a better version of the Six of Coins than I see in a lot of decks. Which is my own personal thing. Wait, what did I just do? Okay. Love this 9 of Coins. Like she has this like big owl give him the side eye. Wow. All right, there you go. Let's do a little, oh, I kind of want to shuffle it, but I also want to watch Kelly from A Truth in Story. I want to watch her flip through, and then I'll have to put it back in order. Let's do a shuffling simulation. I'm not actually going to do it. Okay, yeah. You can definitely bend this deck. In fact, it's probably going to hold the bend too. I can tell you that right now. But that's okay. I don't see that as a downside. I don't mind my decks being used. And some people aren't going to do that with a deck. Some people aren't going to shuffle it like that. So there you have it. That is my unfair comparisons of Tarot of the Divine and Star Spinner. And I will see you guys in the next one.